Welcome everybody to the crazy ride of video game news 2021. I apparently am your host, Brian for Ginger Prime. Welcome if you're new to the channel. Thanks for coming and checking out this video. We've got a little bit to cover. This is going to be falling into a slight rumor category because this is being tweeted out and it's trending that Kojima is in talks with Microsoft to publish his next game. I think this is really monumental because every time we keep hearing about Xbox and Microsoft and Game Pass, it has a lot to do with Sony, and we'll go and talk about at least my thoughts on it. Obviously, you're always welcome to let me know your thoughts, just because of the nature of console wars and the console warriors. Try to be respectful to one another in the comments if you do decide to engage down there. So, first and foremost, again, rumor. But here is why I tend not to do rumor coverage here on this channel. But we quickly keep seeing rumor go into the actual announcement. Rumor to news. So these deals tend to be, when they're leaked, not too far from being inked if they're not already inked, but it's a continual rollout of the news. Just last week we had the MLB Game Pass announcement, but prior to that, at the same time, we got the Outriders announcement with that game dropping into Game Pass last week. So every single week there seems to be a really big story, and Kojima, in my opinion, is a big get for Microsoft. It's a big get for Phil Spencer, especially as he continues to try to bridge that gap with Japanese developers. Now, VentureBeat's reporting on it. We'll go ahead and dive into the link. I'll include the link in the description as well if you guys want to go check this out for yourself. But essentially where they're getting at with this is that there was a lot of rumor and speculation that Blue Box Games, the developer, was making the next Kojima game. Now that project has been revealed. It's been revealed as abandoned, and the trailer dropped on it. So you can kind of see, and again, you can go watch the trailer if you're interested in it. It's a horror game. It's not usually my forte, personally speaking, but I digress. One of the reasons, well, many believe that abandon was for Kojima because it was difficult to find a lot of information on Blue Box Games. This is essentially what the article's saying, but it isn't because it's a shell corporation for Kojima Productions. Instead, Blue Box is a simple, small studio that has never released a major console game before. Now, while their website, it seems to be dead, they have had issues with publishing in the past. That kind of maybe leads to some people believe that it might have been a long con about it. But overall, the rumors and things and more point that Phil Spencer is in fact in talks with Kojima. He's in talks with a lot of people. In fact, if you guys haven't seen already, Final Fantasy XIV is rumored to drop into Game Pass, or at least be heading that way sometime here in the near future. Within the year of exclusivity that seems to end this coming Saturday. So guys, keep a lookout for that if you are a part of that and you haven't had a chance to play that game. I have yet to. I don't have a PlayStation. You can't seem to find PS5s. I've tried to buy one, and now this is kind of getting into my opinion, a part of the video itself. So if you're welcome, there's the information. If you want to stick around for, obviously my gamer opinion, hopefully, don't light me on fire, internet. Okay, so first and foremost, I have a very hard time looking at just this news, even though on the surface of a rumor alone, and wonder, why would anybody buy a PlayStation 5 right now? Not that they wouldn't buy one in 6 months to 12 months. And the only answer that I can come up with as to why get a PS5 is that if you honestly don't have a high-powered PC, you don't have a console, like maybe you're on base PS4, then yes, the PS5 I think would be a masterful upgrade if you manage to get one. But to the point where the news keeps hitting and hitting and hitting, one of two things has to be true. Either Sony's got something big cooking and they're going to sit here and just excite everybody with it, and maybe we'll learn about that in our typical E3 showcase fashion, whether they have something big for that digital event that's been planned and announced, or if around that time they're like, hey, we're Sony, we've been kind of quiet for a while, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. And Sony diehard fanboys probably feel like Sony hasn't been quiet. They've probably been announcing things that just really don't hit my radar. It's Final Fantasy 16, you got my attention, but like PlayStation first party, it's not necessarily my forte. That being said, the other thing being true, in a war of attrition, Microsoft wins this every single time. And Microsoft is just moving to a beat of a drum that is hitting every week. Every week, they're in my feed, Every week they're in your feed. Every week they are hitting this drum to the point where I've seen a lot of diehard PlayStation fans and friends of mine going out and getting a Series S as their Game Pass machine, as their backwards compatibility machine, as their legacy collection machine. The news around PlayStation isn't positive. It isn't. Like when you talk about PlayStation 3 and Vita and all these stores shutting down and people going, well, what about that respect for my library? And thus essentially encouraging more piracy, right? Like hands down, if Sony's not going to, curate that and give you that experience, even if they charge for it, but the fact of shutting it down completely only, I think in my mind, gives you the option of, well, you can just kind of accept it or you can revert to piracy. And I think there's a good percentage of people that probably are going to take the piracy route. Microsoft already has that kind of collection and legacy from Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Series X. Like your library is your library. And that's essentially another selling point that's not even being spoken of, I think, as much as it should be, that you buy a game and you have it. And that's also the strength of Game Pass itself. And that's why you keep seeing that hit over and over and over and over again, to the point where I wonder if there's a point of fatigue or if they're building up to something at some point. But at the end of the day, the marketing team is on point when it comes to these kind of announcements and these kind of things. Now, as to what kind of game Kojima could be making, honestly, at this point, it doesn't necessarily matter. The guy's got so much gamer cred, and he's got such a PlayStation DNA, I guess would be the appropriate term, that it just makes me wonder. It just makes me wonder what their plan would be, because if anything else, if Microsoft is publishing it, I would venture to bet that it's going to be in Game Pass day and date, probably across all platforms, PC, Xbox, cloud. So anyway, it's just things that I keep thinking of. I'm just generally curious as to what your thoughts are. The thought that I keep coming back to is the people who told me I was an idiot because I was upset that Sony locked out a character on Marvel Avengers. Obviously, the news being that Avengers is going to PlayStation Plus or now, or they really need to kind of combine that service, personally speaking. But regardless of of my opinion there, when you look at that, they spent a little and then Microsoft went and bought Bethesda. I don't know. Obviously I can't see into the future, but I can tell you, if Microsoft keeps this up, it actually would probably go to the little things: releasing quality content, releasing quality hardware, releasing it on time, releasing it without bugs. It comes down to the fundamentals. If you kind of think about in baseball terms, right? I'm really excited about MLB The Show. I was going to buy it on an Xbox because that's what I actually have. Again, I wasn't able to get a PS5, but now I'm it's clearly definitely not a console I'm going to worry about for the next 12 months. And the question is that in 12 months, is it going to be relevant? And you can sit here and say they're first party. That's great. Their first party means nothing to me. I'm glad it means something to you. And I'm not saying that you should discount their first party, but I just don't. I've tried their first party. It just hasn't resonated, with the exception of Ghost of Tsushima. Beautiful, masterful game. Beautiful. Honestly, would play that again. But yeah, so not everybody's going to resonate with everybody's first party in that regard. So anyway, it's a long roundabout way of saying it's just interesting to kind of see this happen. And I just continue to feel this isn't the big thing. They're still building up. And in fact, I think they've even listed a job posting to help them, hire somebody to help them focus in on what acquisitions within gaming to go after next. So Microsoft isn't done purchasing. Microsoft isn't done spending. Developers are benefiting heavily from it. And at the end of the day, we'll have to ultimately wait and see what comes out of it. So let me know what you guys are thinking. Any and all comments below. If you're new here and you enjoyed said video, hit that subscribe button. Check out the other stuff we got on the content. And I've got some videos planned, hopefully, that will be rolling out in the next couple of weeks. It's been a crazy busy week with Outriders. I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a good one. And I hope to see you in my next one. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.